meeting to order. Roll call.
Commissioner Perry?
Here.
Commissioner Patterson?
Here.
Commissioner Milena?
Here.
Commissioner Lee?
Put your light on.
Your microphone.
Sorry.
Commissioner.
Approval of the minutes for March 14th.
Commissioner Lee, if you could turn your mic on for us, please. Thank you.
I move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Public comments? Nobody today? New business? A, we got an outside user organizations code of conduct.
Commissioners, hi. So last week, a situation presented itself to me. We were talking about outside user groups that use our facilities. And there's always a level of, let's say, commentary that's done over social media about the department or department staff, commissioners, council members. I mean, that's all kind of expected. The situation, I think, though, has gotten to a point where I'd like the commission to consider looking at developing a code of conduct that we could use with our groups that we, support either directly by underwriting their use of our facilities at no fee or even with a fee for that matter. Some of the more recent situations have been pretty outrageous, and staff has been subjected to them. We all live in town, so it's hurtful to families. It's hurtful to people that we know. It's hurtful to the organization. So I talked to the city attorney yesterday a little bit about the situation and asked, are we within our scope of responsibilities to come up with some kind of general guidelines as far as how these organizations should conduct themselves while they're benefiting from using city facilities? His opinion was, send me something. Let's look at it. So that's why it's on your agenda today, just to kind of talk a little bit about the premise. I can't speak for all my staff, but I can speak to a few of them who have been, the subjects of that. I know I myself, especially during the swimming pool fiasco a couple of years ago, had to be the butt of a lot of comments on the internet. But we get paid for that, so it's a different story. I think when it starts to look at some of our line personnel, our people in the field, you as commissioners, that it kind of goes a little too far. So what I did is I asked Brittany to kind of pull together some youth sports codes of conduct. None of them really seem to touch exactly on the particular topic that I'm looking at, but maybe just as a general guideline of maybe we put something together. We do have an adopted council-approved code of conduct for visitors to the library. We have a code of conduct for visitors to our recreation facilities. And violations of that code of conduct come with different levels of deterrence. Some of them are warnings, some of them are suspension from using facilities for a period of time. Some of them are, the intent is to get people to think twice about maybe what they're doing. And they've been pretty successful at the library. We've seen a big reduction in our need to contact library guests that cause problems. Some people choose not to come back to the library because of their conduct, and so some of them are banned from the library. I don't think we've used it very much. Maybe at the youth center occasionally we'll have to suspend a youth's participation because of some incident that's happened. But we never talk about those groups that are out there. And in my mind, again, we have these groups that use our facilities free of charge, generally speaking. don't like something that we've done or haven't done or aren't able to do. And so you end up getting in these situations where social media is kind of used as the tool to beat us up. And again, from a staff perspective, I mean, some of us, you know, it's expected in the job. But again, from a commissioner's perspective, volunteering your time, being out there, getting involved, I can't really see us allowing that, I guess. So anyway, I gave you some copies of some codes of conduct. Some of them are really extensive. I certainly don't propose, like, I think it's the LAUSD has one that's like I don't know, 2 pages long and in fine, probably like an 8-point type. But just maybe we can, at the next meeting, maybe have a discussion and talk about situations that have come up. And, you know, do we need a code of conduct out there for our groups? I think I'll use Commissioner Lee's example that he uses all the time, is you're supposed to come out and use recreation programs for play, for fun, to learn. If our leadership in these organizations are, you know, making unsavory comments or being, you know, poor role models on social media, you know, basically biting the hand that feeds them in one sense, you know, by allowing them to use our facilities. Are we encouraging that kind of behavior? Very broad, very philosophical discussion, but I wanted to bring it to your attention today. We'll talk a little bit more about it. I want to be able to do a little bit more research into the premise and what other cities might be doing about that. But yeah, that's kind of why it's here. So again, we just presented a few from out of the area. A lot of it is targeted at parents that, you know, sometimes parents can be a little overzealous on the fields. But I think from this, you could kind of get an idea of the fact that a lot of these were developed prior to social media being the outlet for people, because they don't really talk about it. But, you know, we could certainly be trailblazers in that regard and, you know, create one, or, you know, we could find some other way of dealing with it. So I'll stop there and just say, you know, want to bring you back more. Maybe if you have any comments today, or maybe any of you had any experience with social media issues.
Could I ask, do some of the sports have something like this in place that they use?
So most of them do have something. Little League, Babe Ruth, but they're very limited, and they're usually focused at players' conduct and parent conduct on the field. They don't really address like their administrator or their organizational groups, you know, the president, treasurers, you know, officers of their board of directors. They really don't talk about that. And I believe the reason is the expectation is that those people at those levels are going to be the role model. They don't need to be reminded that they shouldn't do something like whatever, you know, yell at children or create these environments of hostility. But over the last 7 or 8 months, the department has been very cognizant of the issue of harassment, you know, within our own ranks and the issues that, you know, that creates. So it's timely for us to try to come up with a plan for this. Ultimately, it would be something that the commission would decide that they want to do, and then something that we would take to the council for adoption, just like we do our other codes of conduct.
Well, I personally would like to see something, just because I'd like it to be more uniform throughout the different sports, as far as, because I know I go to some games and parents are very respectful and that of, but then I go to others and they're not. And so it would be nice to see the city do something that would protect our people that are helping out in that as well, but also to just make it a little more uniform.
Commissioner Lee?
Once again, I remind people that the power of play, we are in leadership positions to empower our participants to learn from sports and conduct, sportsmanship, team building, leadership, communication, conflict resolution, social responsibility, the list goes on. Those are all life skills. And I have a couple of questions. Do the programs require like a organizational meeting before a league begins where every team has to have a representative?
If we are offering the program ourselves, then yes. And we do have an established player code of conduct within our sports programs. And I'll say we probably still have some issues with that, but really we're talking about those groups outside that are basically our facility users, you know, that come in to use a facility.
Okay, so we need to standardize that, and they need to abide by your code of conduct. And then on the website, it needs to be consistent. And then another question I have is, do you have a notice to appear process? As an example, whether the person be a participant, a parent, a coach, a fan, if they act out of line, whether with abusive language or an altercation, does any of your employees have the ability to issue a notice to appear to that person and therefore follow a process to where they have to meet with the director by a certain time, schedule an appointment, otherwise receive severe ramifications?
That would probably be what we would be headed towards, something like that. Let me use the library as an example. So the library director and whatever staff she has on the job at that particular time can tell someone who's being disruptive, not following the code of conduct, that they need to leave the premises. They document that. If that person refuses, then the Rangers get called to come over and make contact with the individual, get their information, remove them from the facility. And then the library director follows up with the formal action, whatever that is. They'll send them a letter and saying, you know, you're suspended from coming back in the library for the next 5 days or whatever it might be. And that's kind of the process that they use. And if you violate it again, you're subject to a longer expulsion from the facility. And then they've gotten to the point with some individuals where they can't come back, period. They're basically what they call trespassed, and they can't come back in the property. So there is a process for that in some of our other codes of conduct. And this one would probably have to be a little different. But to answer your question, yes, a process could be created. There is not one right now. We really leave it up to the leagues to deal with their spectators, coaches, and parents on the fields. That's kind of up to them at this point.
I just want to comment that this topic is one of my favorite because when I first got to the university, we used to have participants, if you can imagine, irate college-age kids getting into altercations using profanity, language, physical abuse. And so we started the Code of Conduct Sportsmanship to talk about the importance of your opponent as part of the game, referees, we're all part of this team. Without them, you don't have a game. And then we would go on to issue the notice to appear. But when we first started, I would ask them, both individuals, to come in, and I would give them a chance to talk. And of course, it was always, it's his fault. It's your referee's fault. You have the worst, shittiest referees. It's always someone else's fault. But after a while, I got to thinking, I'm not going to let these people talk anymore about it's the fact that it's someone else's fault. My first question to them will be, after they talk about the sportsmanship and code of conduct and the ability to exercise self-control, you don't have control over anyone except yourself. So given that in mind, if you think about your future, right now you're in college, you've done something right to get there. But if you're going to be a successful and happy individual, What is it going to take for you to be the type of person that you can be proud of yourself and others, whether it be your significant other, your parents, and others, to be proud of you as well, and will want to be around you as opposed to, I don't want to be around that person. And that went a long way. And I've met individuals who've come into my office being that irate college kid to thanking me afterwards and saying, I really appreciate what you said to me, Mr. Lee, and it turned them around. So I think this is a very good initiative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner?
I'm glad you have that background. That should really come in handy. It's sad that we have to do this, but given the, just life and the energy that's going around these days, I think it's crucial, and it's wise to do it. We're kind of foolish not to, actually. But, at the conference we were at last week, there were so many references to this. It was two of our big speakers, the keynote speakers addressed not the code, but just the energy that's out there right now. So it's just,
Negative energy.
yeah, they were wonderful. But yeah, I'm
It's a me mentality
All
these
aboard.
days.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of the groups that we work with, 90% of them are fine. And they've,
Yeah.
we don't need to police them, so to
Yeah.
speak. But there are those smaller groups that, don't really understand their role. And not picking on any of the organizations, I think a lot of the organizations are very remote. Little League, they're based in Pennsylvania. They give somebody a charter, and once that charter is issued, there's a local commissioner, those kinds, but nobody really sits down and works with them and monitors them or teaches them how to be better people. There are opportunities, they do offer opportunities, but I don't know how many people take advantage of those. So anyway, it's just a concern. I think we're behind the clock, really. I think, this is kind of a catch-up for us. But what I'd like to do is bring it back, either next month or the month after, and have a little bit more information for you.
I'd like to say one thing.
Go ahead.
Being part of Santa Maria Girls Softball president in 2000, I was there when they took the league away the city. We had to move ourselves from Armstrong Park to Hagerman. And there was a lot of conflict at that time with misconduct. And we call that, in every league, we have to be a nonprofit, you have to have a set of bylaws. And those set of bylaws has everybody's responsibility on the board or whatever. And if you're detrimental to your league, it's on almost every bylaw, you could be suspended. Now, most boards have new membership votes annually, okay, elections. And some of the boards, they're new every year, so they learn, but these bylaws happen to get misplaced every year. Santa Maria Girls Softball, we have bylaws that we just wrote over and over and over, and we extended them, we took them out. But every year, we have a general membership meeting, we had one. So everybody and each coach, every parent, I'm not the parents, but each coach got a set of those bylaws. And if your parent or your coaches were detrimental to the league, the board could dismiss you from the program. And you agreed to that, The problem is that you have boards that don't want to agree to their bylaws, that they don't have any, they're not running the bylaws, And then you have good programs out there, and you have other programs that are not doing that, so. There's rules in effect right now. It's just that we have to say, okay, Santa Maria Girls Softball, if you have a problem and you don't fix your problem, you could lose your fields. They did it to us in 2000, right? And they actually, city took the program from Santa Maria Girls Softball, and it took everything that we had to get it back. And we ended up getting it back, and that program has flourished now into one of the top programs. But it took treasurer's report, it took a village. And it took us 4 years to get that program back on its feet. So programs can be done if you have good boards and the city it's hard for us, the city, us or whatever, to get involved with leagues, personal. You say they're personal, little leagues, Babe Ruth are different, baseball, softball, soccer, that's their programs. But at some point, those are city fields, those are city buildings, those are city parks that they're using. So at some point, the city should have a say-so in how you act. And we shouldn't be scared to say, hey, they did it to us, and I know that's why they did it to us. They did it to 500 girls or 300 girls, and we created a 500 league program after that, okay? So it can't be done, just that the city has to have the power to say, hey, knock it off, control your people. You can't do that, and that's acting at fights at the field between parents. That's anytime. The boards need to control their leagues and say, hey, you're detrimental to the league, you're suspended. And being a president of Santa Maria Girls Softball, I suspended a lot of coaches and a lot of people. And we let go of a lot of board members because we had to. And that's what the leagues have to do more. And it's all of them, soccer, basketball. Basketball is now in the hands of the city because they were having issues like that. So the city got involved, and now basketball is back in the city's hand, Santa Maria City basketball. So it's nothing new.
Right. No, I mean, we are kind of revisiting the past. What do they say? Going back to the future on some of these things. And I think Commissioner Molina is correct in that we have an oversight role. We don't want to run girls softball, and we don't want to run Little League. I mean, that's not the goal. But the goal is to really get them to understand that they have a responsibility, like you say, following their bylaws, keeping their own house clean, you know. But the stuff I'm seeing right now, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
Commissioner Lee?
With the growth of programs, all the programs are having to rely more and more on volunteer staff, parents, et cetera. And consequently, they do not have the training that you and I went through college to study and make sure we knew how to organize these programs. When you have a volunteer coach or a parent leader, if we implement these rules and guidelines, along with the implementation, there has to be a lot of training and follow through. So I just want to put that out there.
Sure.
We're going to have to make sure these volunteer coaches and parents all know what the guidelines are and what the rules are. Thank you.
So basically be drawing perimeters
Right.
for each group or each, yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you, commissioners. And like I said, if it sounds like it's okay to bring it back, so I'll be bringing it back to you a little later on. We'll do some more research, see what we can find out from other cities, what other departments are doing. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Posadas. Any old business? Director at Management Staff, noteworthy activities. Smitherin?
We've been busy. Any questions about the noteworthies? I'll go into additional program details in the next part of the report. Thank you.
So as far as my report goes, I asked Brittany to load up a little, so we're moving ahead on Enos, and we had our architect do a flyover kind of concept. So I'm going to share that with you today. So on the back is the community center building. That's just kind of a block, kind of filling it in, but kind of getting a general idea what the idea is. This back porch will actually become the main entrance to the Enos house for events and activities. And the ceremonial front door will just be that, something that's there for photos and that kind of things. But we are moving ahead. All the detail work that you see, the columns and the porch, a lot of the detail work is had to be custom made out of redwood, which is what the house is mostly made out of, redwood. So we got a found someone with a computerized wood turning equipment and did a lot of the specialty woodworking. That order is supposed to be here next week. Then they'll start installing those finishing touches on the outside, and then we'll get a paint job. Public Works plans to take the project to bid at the May 14th council meeting. So it'll be the house, the grounds, and the community center building will all be in one bid package. And so we're excited about that, finally. I was telling some of you that I was digging through my computer, and back in 2005, we took our first pictures. Teresa Rayburn and I took our first pictures of the Enos house out there, and when it was still up on the bluff. Found those pictures, Brittany. I sent them to you. So, it was pretty much a shambles. So we're excited to kind of get it moving forward. So that's moving. Just a couple of other real minor things. We have just went through the conference. I think that went really well. It was probably one of the better conferences that I've been to in a while. Thank you, commissioners, that were able to go. Commissioner Lee, you missed out. It was a good conference. A lot of relevant topics to what is going on right now in our industry. For once, they actually had a session on trees, which, I tell you, I have not seen a tree session at our conference in probably 10 years. City of Corona was that presenter. They were actually presenting two separate items, and just a lot of stuff happening in that particular city. And they were willing to come and share it, so it was pretty good to hear from them. Things like, diversity, equity, and inclusion are big topics, in the industry. Equity in parks and equity in facilities across cities. I look at some of these cities and I hear some of their stories, and amazingly enough, I think Santa Maria, obviously every city has ways to grow, but as far as park equity goes, we have a lot of parks spread out throughout the town, and they may not be in the world's greatest places exactly, geographically located close to people in some cases, but for the most part, I think we have a pretty diverse system. So, I don't know, commissioners or Dennis, want anything to say on conference? You guys went to sessions.
Well, the tree one was my favorite. But like you said, I think there was just so much, especially the opening speakers, a lot of positive stuff about how to handle certain situations and how to take something bad and learn from it and grow. And I enjoyed every single one I went to. So.
Thanks. Commissioner Carey?
Sometimes, some years, they have things that really aren't pertinent to us. Or, I don't know, they're just like a small segment of even the Recreation and Parks people, I think. But this year, even if, it was hard to choose which one to go to. There were so many in each time slot. It was just great. It was, and the best thing, and I always thought of Dennis when this happened, but it wasn't the best thing. It's just interesting. But pickleball is an issue with every single city.
Yeah.
It was like somebody would say pickleball and people would just, it was a really great conference. I'm so grateful to have been able to go. Oh, here. But, yeah.
Yeah, it was probably one of the best ones I've been to as well. A lot of the times I was trying to pick between 2 and 3 different workshops to go to, and really learned a lot. I think for me it was on two levels. One was programmatic, so we'll be looking at some of our programs, and I know I attended some workshops with you as well, and so some really good ideas in expanding our programming and outreach efforts. The other part was working with a new younger age group, and so I did some of the management and leadership workshops, which I will find helpful as we continue to work with a younger population. So overall, it was definitely one of the best conferences I've been to. And thanks for going.
I have one more comment. I was very excited about one of them that I went to, the augmented reality, and I couldn't wait to share everything with Dennis, and he already knew all about it. But I'm glad I know about it now, too.
Augmented reality is very similar to the Pokemon Go game. You guys remember that from a couple years ago, where you're using your phone to find different goals and targets and complete different challenges. We are implementing that at Buena Vista Park and at Los Flores Ranch Park here as part of our SMORE grant. So thanks for going. We may fall back on you to remind us of some of those glitches that we forgot.
It was really neat.
Thank you.
Oh, and one more thing. One of our big play sets, we just purchased a
yes.
big play set, and it just happened, our actual set was set up there in the, what's it called? The expo hall. So we were kind of cool, they really liked us, and they gave us like backpacks and all kinds of goodies, because that was ours, and they were trying to sell you another one, as it turns out. But apparently, a lot of people really liked ours, and were trying to buy our actual playset.
Nice.
But it was an all-around great show, great conference. My only negative thing was I was so excited that they were doing the yoga morning out on the bay, and I brought my yoga stuff, and I was so excited. But it was the morning that the tree canopy was gonna be, and I thought, there's no way that, it would just, I'm not missing tree canopy. So I
Yeah.
didn't get to do yoga. But anyway, it couldn't have been better. Great people. People were friendly, and they're not always as open or whatever, but it was nice.
Yeah, it was the largest attended conference in a while, 1,500 delegates there.
And it seemed like a small town, I mean, because we kept seeing the same people, and they'd say, oh, hey, how's it going? It was just funny. It was a great vibe this year.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for going. I think it was good also. I think one of the things that you mentioned, which I mention every time I do my evaluation, is there's so much information in the sessions. So during the time slots, there's so many sessions, and you cannot get to all the good ones. And my suggestion is always that you have a lot of good sessions, why don't you repeat them later in the day or the next day, so that people who couldn't make it the first day might be able to go the
Yeah,
second day.
that's true.
And
Well, we've got the app, which you could look up every single one and read about it, and I don't know if the videos are up. They're supposed to have video everything, right? So
yeah, some of them do have it
Yeah,
on there.
which is
We can share
remarkable.
those, yeah, with people, or you can get yes, thank you, the PowerPoints and whatever it is they showed, yeah. So anyway, so that was a conference.
Yeah.
Mr.
I just want to make a comment. The annual conferences, when I was at the university, was a highlight every year. And it was not uncommon for UC Santa Barbara to bring about 30 students with us each year. Everyone knew us because we would have this long following of students everywhere. But what I explained to the students was, regardless of your profession, whether it be engineering or accounting, every profession has a professional development network conference every year. And it's to your advantage to understand how this works and attend and realize the importance of the networking and professional development. So congratulate all of you for attending, and I hope that a lot of our Santa Maria City recreation staff attended.
Yeah, we were actually able to take a number of staff this year in comparison. Usually we get one or two people that go to a conference, but we did have two of our, one staff member went to get his playground inspector's certification. And then Bianca McNeil went as program specialist for special events. And Eddie Araujo, who's out at the ranch, is a student at Cal State East Bay. Sorry, I keep wanting to say Hayward, but, that was the old days.
Old time.
And he was there with his class doing exactly what you're talking about. Their entire class came down to work the conference and do sessions and things, so he got exposed to that. 2 commissioners and Neville attended, and, kind of gave him some exposure, because he's used to going to the public works kind of conferences, where he says, yeah, when we go in the expo hall, all they have are valves and meters and trash cans. Here it was different.
Just
So,
out of curiosity, do they have a T-shirt exchange at the exhibit hall? No.
Haven't seen one of those in probably about 10 years as
Yeah.
well, yeah.
So
It's COVID.
That used to be a highlight, and then what they would do is they would take the T-shirt winning award shirt every year, collect them over a year of time, and then after a while, every year they would come up with a T-shirt quilt, and then they would auction it off, and we created a NERSA Foundation scholarship. And that's something that CPRS can do, or even within the city of Santa Maria we could do. But those are just some ideas.
Thank you. So that's it for my report, Commissioner Malena. I don't really have a whole lot.
Thank you. Mr. Smithman, Recreation Division report.
Good afternoon again. I just want to go over the next 3 weekends with you pretty quick and touch base on a couple of other projects. So this coming weekend is the Kite Festival at Rotary Centennial Park. Hopefully you guys can make it out and swing by. It's a great event. It's in partnership. It is not solely our event. We work with the Discovery Museum. We leave a lot of the heavy lifting to them, but we do work with them and get everything arranged as far as the logistics and equipment. Again, that's this weekend, Saturday, at Rotary Centennial Park. Next weekend, we have Earth Day up at the ranch. So as you know, most of the ranch is closed, but we have access to a couple of the smaller trails right by the visitor center. And we had the Junior Bark Ranger program, or just the Bark Ranger program, out there last weekend, which was successful. And then we have Earth Day coming up the next weekend, which is the 22nd. So if you can attend that. We're celebrating Kids Day in plethora this year. We're going to be working with, I believe it's the Noontime Rotary Club. That's the biggest logo on the flyer. And we'll be assisting by providing activities for the Dia de los Niños at Oakley, thank you. Oakley Park, and that's going to be on the 23rd. And go ahead. Oh, sorry. And then on the 29th, we'll be celebrating Dia de los Niños here with the public library. We'll have the street closure, providing more activities and events for the youth in our community. Those are the big events. Of course, we have activities and events every day. This font can't get much smaller, and that's why I have to wear these glasses. But those are the weekend, the community-wide events. If you're interested in more of the day-to-day events, let me know. I'd be happy to provide you a really tiny calendar. Just a quick update on the swimming pool. We did start construction. I say we like I had anything to do with it. They've started construction on the filter and chemical system. I stopped in today. They are moving right along. They said it's a 60-day project. At this rate, I'm thinking that they might be done early, but I'm not going to jinx it. So, but everything is moving along really well at this point. Want to let you know that the mural at Machado Plaza is complete. I need to just do a final walkthrough and make sure there's no blurry lines or anything, but if you get a chance to drive by the plaza, please take a look. It turned out beautiful. So thanks Public Art Committee and others for your suggestions. It really stands out. And then our 2 graffiti abatement projects at Fletcher Park on the backside of the skate ramps are complete. So far so good, no graffiti. We do need to go out there to do a final seal coat on those, but they look great. I get to drive by them multiple times a day, and they really pop. So if you're on College heading south at Fletcher Park where the skate park is, just as you get around that first roundabout, take a look to your left. It's pretty
Just look for the
impactful.
balloon dogs.
balloon dogs and origami creations, bright and fun. So we're working on some other projects. The Public Art Committee, I'm sorry I don't have a picture to show you today, looked at a project right here at Cook and McClellan. We'll be doing a painted crosswalk. We're mimicking the tile above on the, what is that called?
Tower.
The tower ceiling, roof, yes. So we're just in process of getting some of the final details put together for that, and I'll send it out once it's done. That is the end of my report.
Any questions, Steve?
Yes. I'm just curious, who is in charge of your teen jobs fair on Thursday?
The teen supervisor that oversees that program would be Jason Davey.
Can you connect me with them, please?
Yes.
They always forget that there's actual recreation path for recreation parks, collegiate recreation, et cetera, and I would love to help out.
Yeah, I know that they did reach out to Hancock. We work closely with Hancock and often, or have in the past, gotten volunteers and working with Paul over there to make sure that the kids are aware of the potential for recreation program in a lot of different industries, not only with municipalities, but in other areas as well. So I'll definitely get you his extension.
Thank you. And then I know there's a Little Giants is going on again.
Junior Giants, we are open for registration right now. I haven't checked the numbers since we've been back, but typically that would fill up in just a couple of weeks. There's a possibility it's full now. We take 300 youth. It's a great program. And so I don't think that we're going to have any issues filling it this year. We just wish we had more room.
Right. The other program that we're going to anticipate a huge growth is swimming in the summer.
Yeah, I'm really excited about our swimming program this summer. In addition to our classes that we're already running, we'll be working with some other agencies to provide swimming lessons to those that may not have the opportunity. In addition, with the S'mores grant that we received for this next 2 years, we're going to be able to give 300 kids per year swimming lessons.
Wow.
Out of the grant funding, so that's a great opportunity for us. Again, the issue will be is we have this pool time and pool space, so we're lucky to have the agreement with the high school district to be able to use Santa Maria High School and Pioneer Valley should we need to. We hope to, and we anticipate filling. Then again, it boils down to, do we have enough staff? And so we're really digging into that. Neville isn't here to help me with this, but we're really looking at the way we budget our staff, and lifeguards are going to potentially be our guinea pig. Instead of having specific positions set, we're looking at changing it to a number of hours per year available, because of course summertime is a heavy time for us for lifeguards, and fall not so much, but we tend to not have enough staff during summer because we're only allocated so many positions. So there's some things we're working on in-house to make sure we have too many swim instructors and lifeguards during the summer. We think that will fill it. One of the challenges, and I'm hoping to bring this back with more information, is with our programs, especially through our S'more program that are free, is we're getting people signing up and not attending. We just had horseback riding yesterday. So we're looking at, and I will bring back to you and discuss further with Alex, a cancellation fee. Again, not to deter anybody from signing up, but not giving notice because they just, for example, those 2 spots for horseback riding, we're still obligated to pay for those 2 spots, and we weren't able to offer it to someone else. So we're looking at coming up with the procedure that if they give less than a 2-week notice, that there may be a cancellation fee. It would be minor. Again, I'll bring all those to you in the future with more details as we flush it out.
We used to have a forfeit fee that was mandatory when you registered, but then if you don't forfeit, you get it back.
Right. Yeah, it's our community's a little challenging. Again, we don't want to deter anyone from participating in our programs. We're not talking the full amount. The horseback riding, for example, would have been $44. We know what a challenge that can be for our community, and so what we're looking at doing is just coming up with a flat rate. We do this for our golf program. We had to start charging $10 because we would get people signing up and then not showing up. We tried $5, that didn't work, and we tried $10. And the nice thing is that working with Play, we have financial assistance dollars available. It's a one-page form, really simple. But we're happy to help those that can't afford, if not through the SMORE program, through our other programs as well. So, and it's a simple process. So I'll be bringing that back to you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Carey, any questions? Mr. Patterson? Okay, move on down to Operation Division Report. Mr. Christensen?
Afternoon, Commissioners. All right, so just briefly, things going on. We've already touched on Chapel, but I'll just go over a little more. We're down to little details, right? A little work on the stage. There's a couple light poles that need to be painted and some gates. These are all in process. So the biggest thing, and in fact, we have accepted the landscape and staff is taking care of it now. That's new this week. The biggest thing there, and this is the whole area is suffering from that, is getting PG&E there to hook our power up. They've got a huge backlog. It's not just us. We're still waiting for a meter at Russell Park, okay? So, I mean, that park's been long enough to we're replacing plants now. We still don't have an electric meter. But I've asked around. This is just typical everywhere. So we're getting really close at Chapel. I don't think any of our details are going to hold anything up here, and it's looking really good. I want to clump this together because we have all kinds of things going on that are all sort of in the works. So this is, you know, it's in design, it's in bid. These are all things that are coming along. So Vets Park, we've got the first phase, which is the abandonment of Pine Street and all the construction. We also have a second phase that's in final plan review. The DeJoy Pocket Park, again, in plan preparation. Alex mentioned Enos Ranch Park, which is getting closer to actually happening. But so all these things are just on the verge here. So we've got another pocket park on Miller Street, which is a little earlier in the process, but of the design review. And the Battles Road Trail, which is a nice grant project that's going through the design preparation. So we've got all these things, and I'll even include court resurfacing at the tennis courts over at Manami. That's a little simpler process, but we're soliciting bids right now for that project. So we have a whole lot of things that are going to start happening here. So it's going to be a very exciting calendar year. Sorry, City Hall too. It's earlier in the process, but we will have something to show you pretty soon, sort of concept plans. So things are moving on. So a lot of pieces going on here. Other than that, sort of a corollary, we've had a company out working on doing boring samplings that need to be done to be able to light a couple fields. So they've done the work at Adams Basin. I'm not sure, I haven't looked this week, but last week there were still ducks at Crossroads. So things need to dry up a little more, and then they're going to be there too. But that's for lighting those two fields. So a little different process, but again, sort of the same kind of thing. We've got a lot going on. Just for general, finally, we have some sunshine. Main thing is lack of rain. Staff are hitting it really hard, which there's, weeds, things like that. And everything's now going to start growing a whole lot. So they're anxiously getting out there. Sometimes it's still too wet to do some things, but, we expect a lot of work in the parks, and this is really invigorating with all these new projects. Last one, more of a project in process, Presker Loop Trail. If you go out there, 2/3 of the DG is in. It's in, it's done, you can walk on it. There's still a lot of behind-the-scene work to do. They've got to do ADA ramps, which are concrete and takes a little longer, but they're up on their schedule, and it's looking really good. And then staff hopes to follow this up with a little facelift to the park as we can afterwards. So anyway, that's going to be done this month, I believe. So that's basically what we have for updates.
Any questions, Ms. Carey?
Question. At Jimmy Park, the, outside the perimeter of the park, every year wildflowers grow. And this year, they really grew. I mean, they're waist high, they're beautiful. I've got photos if you guys want to see. And we've got, it's full of bees and it's full of, you know, insects. And I'm waiting any day, I know they're going to come and just bulldoze it down.
Yeah, I asked Scott when they were gonna get in there and mow it down. You know, the weird part about that park is that we don't own the water, right? The banks and the water belong to the county. So we have an agreement, maintenance agreement, that we have to control certain things, litter and weeds and those kinds of things. So, yeah, every once in a while, it'll get a good mow job down, at least on the dirt banks. Try to leave that area on the west side, which is more Thule kind of things,
Yeah.
or the ducks to nest in and that. But, yeah, it'll probably get serviced sometime later on in the year.
I'm afraid the soil's way too wet right now to drive the mowing tractors on it.
Yeah, she's happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Commissioner Rapp?
I-
Commissioner Lee?
I know a hot topic right now with my wife and our friends is the rising costs of electricity. Consequently, for the fields and otherwise, do we have any solar stations to collect that energy as a battery for those purposes?
So there's no solar right now. Public Works is looking at solar options at some of the facilities that make sense to have solar. That would be in their wheelhouse as far as, you know, getting the projects done. I believe they're looking at the youth center as the number one project to try in building the carport kind of thing around the parking areas. The city itself is looking at a solar farm out at the landfill on, you know, east of town. I'm not sure where that's at yet. That was part of the whole PG&E study that we did about 4 years ago. So there's a possibility for there. But they are starting to turn now that the rates are so crazy, you know.
What about this new field that we're putting in?
So there's some solar, very minor electricity at the sports complex, because there's really just three buildings, I guess, 2 bathrooms and a snack bar. Field lights are not considered in that yet, so, you know, we're waiting to see. Yeah, so they're looking at it more closely now than they have before.
Are we at the participation point where the numbers of participants far exceed the number of field hours available?
Oh, yeah, we've been there for a while.
So we need artificial turf and we need lights.
Yes.
Okay.
Step one was getting the lights that Scott mentioned. That'll actually light 5 fields, which will take us into having fields available about 30% more than what we have now. If the sports complex comes online, there has been discussions about adding at least 1 field worth of lights and providing the infrastructure. So that would be another option. Ball field wise, you know, we're talking at Hagerman right now is actually changing from the Amel halide to LED lighting. We have to do some rewiring anyway. So there's possibly some money available from Public Works to start changing maybe 1 field at a time from metal halide over to LEDs. Even switching over to LEDs, you'll see anywhere between a 25 to 35% decrease in your electricity costs.
They did that a few years ago when I was in the antique business. I remember being in the what's it called? Deja Vu Antique Mall out in Old Orchid. And the owner mentioned that PG&E was providing the grant to change over, and that was a significant amount of
Yes.
savings.
Yeah, and that's, we work with PG&E on a lot of different options that are out there. So, yes.
That's it. Okay, commissioner reports. Mr. Carey?
Okay. I'm a little afraid to say anything since I was called on it earlier. I'll be brief. I did write up the whole thing on the conference, but since we covered it, you're good. Jan, March 21st, I was appointed to the Santa Barbara County Parks Commission. Yeah. And actually, this morning, I had my orientation. It's just parks. No recreation, and they kept stressing that. But, yeah, it's kind of cool. It's funny because Mayor Patino called me last week and said, how can somebody get out to Guadalupe Beach? And I said, oh, it's, I just didn't know. I assumed it was the snowy plover. So I said, well, it's from March to, October. They can go in November. And she goes, okay. But the reality is the road's washed out. You know that. I've just found that out today. Anyway, it might be a good crossover for us. Well, you guys already know everything, but anyway, I'm excited to do it. Yeah. The all-department meeting, that's like the funnest thing to do. You learn so much, all the little things that are going on and the nuances, and see everybody, all the, the great people that work for the department, and good burritos too. Just saying. Anyway, I got to go to that. March 31st, it was the meeting with David Rodriguez and Mayor Pacino about the trip for the Mayor's Youth Task Force. We're going south, I think in about a week and a half. And we're going to Riverside because she went to a conference. I don't know, I think I told somebody. She went to a conference, LAF course, I don't know, but it was at UC Riverside, and the Cheech Marin Chicano Library is there, or art exhibition museum, and so she wants the kids to see it. So we're doing a really funny. Usually we go to set schools, so we're gonna do like Claremont and a couple schools there, and Fullerton, and then hit UCI. We're not, but anyway, it's going to be a really good trip. So that's coming up. But to the rest is the conference. So that's it.
Paul and I were at the Parks Development Committee meeting last month, and one thing that we were looking at is play equipment for the sports complex, which goes along the railroad. And so Dennis suggested we have a train theme for that park. So we were looking to find equipment that had that theme. And there's a lot of possibilities out of it.
How cute that would be.
Yeah. And then I forgot one thing about the conference, so that I don't forget to mention it when we have our next tree committee. One of the things that Corona was doing to get the public more interested in taking care of in the residential areas especially, they have, like the couple weeks before, if it's a certain street, let's say they're going to put all new trees on this street, they saturate the area with flyers to all the neighbors and invite them to come out and help plant the trees, etc. But they set up, and sometimes they even close the street, and they set up like a little party. But they have education, like how to take care of the tree, how to plant the tree, and refreshments, and as many as they can, they hand them a shovel to help. And they said it's really, they do this once a month in a different locale of wherever they're, feel the need is greatest. And they said it's been very successful in getting people to ownership of the trees and not chopping them back down, that. So it was just something that, something to think about.
We could do that.
One of the things that, in Corona too, is that their economics and their diversity is very much like Santa Maria.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, the way they're quadrants of the city, they're cut into quadrants like we are. There's economically depressed areas. So we're not talking like, oh, it's Corona and there's, all these, rich people that live there.
Yeah.
There's pockets of the
Yeah.
community.
And they're targeting 5,000 trees a year for, was it 3 years?
Something like that.
Yeah. A very aggressive tree planting program.
Yeah. Very hot place. They said, very hot. They're trying to cool it off.
Thank you. Commissioner Lee?
So going back to the Play Board meeting, it was nice to meet all the other board members, and there's a lot going on, and I have to dovetail to what you were saying about the train people. That's a perfect example that Dennis has already struck a chord with that. Are they called the Santa Maria Railroad? What's the group? Yeah, and they're willing to help. They're there, ready, and to run with it. So, congratulations. And then the other thing I was very impressed with, did you happen to bring one of those sponsorship flyers? Dennis came out and showed us this program that he had worked on. Basically, it's a form, and it's exactly what I had in mind, what I used at UCSB. But we had dozens of students that went out into the community and just dropped it off and talked to build relationships. And it's very effective. We'll bring it to the next meeting, but I'm hoping that everyone will get involved and become a stakeholder in terms of getting partnerships in the community in support of recreation. Congratulations. That was excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
I was down, went down to Vets Park, checked the trees, see how it looked over there. It's pretty clean, huh? Looks good. Everything's all cleaned up. It's a great job. Good job. Well, if nobody else has anything else to say, we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
Did you want to read the article about the Dungeons and Dragons tournament at the youth center?
Yes. Yes, of course.
I pointed it out to my granddaughter, and she was like, she missed